Disclaimer, content in this video has been created strictly for educational and investigational purposes. There is no intention to glamorise or endorse criminality or any aspect of crime. The information in this video has been acquired online from publicly available sources. Enter HMP Kilmarnock. Flung up in Bow House, 3 miles from Hurlford, opened on the 25th of March 1999 by Premier Prison Services, who got nabbed by Serco in 2002. This was Scotland's first privately run NIC, built to hold 500 cons, remand, short-term, long-term and YOs, with a max capacity of 692. What was the deal? It was a 25-year contract with Kilmarnock Prison Services Limited, costing a whopping $368 million by the end of it. Serco's Mark Whittaker to help facilitate magazine, Killy's been the most cost-effective prison in the Scottish estate. But what's the real price? The place was brand new, with single cells, proper toilets. This was during the slopping out era, so this was big time. It had quite a clean setup, according to a 2005 HMIPS report. But being private meant it was all about outputs, meet the targets, keep the heat down, and don't make a mess. The SPS kept an eye on Serco, but they didn't tell them how to spend their cash, which led to some raised eyebrows like that. However, it was 2005 where Kilmarnock would see its shortcomings exposed in a national platform for the country to see, at the hands of BBC's Panorama crew, who went undercover with hidden cameras and reporters pretending to be staff. Jesus, Donald McIntyre, eat your heart out, man. Panorama's expose titled Private Prisons, Profit and Loss put a few private noses out of joint. The undercover footage showed HMP Kilmarnock stretched thinner than a roll of cling film. Staff shortages are a big one. Surprise, surprise. There's barely enough screws to keep the place under control, with reports of low staff to prisoner ratios making it a nightmare to manage the cons. The programme catches staff cutting corners and neglecting security checks. There's even talk of a culture where profit comes before safety, with Serco accused of prioritising their bank balance of proper training and resources. The public were speechless, and the papers went bush. You get headlines talking about a national disgrace and private prison failures. MSPs obviously jumped in the bandwagon, and you had the Scottish Parliament's Justice Committee booting Serco right up the haw-maws. The Prison Officers Association, already scun it with private jails, used it as ammo to push for Kilmarnock to go public. Serco was scrambling, promising internal reviews and robust action to fix the mess. Too little too late, because the damage was already done. HMP Kilmarnock's shiny white Calvin classics were now skid-marked and piss-stained. But what made Killy stone out for other Scottish jails? Unlike your bog-standard SPS jails like Barlinnie or Peterhead, HMP Kilmarnock was a private beast for 25 years. It was run like a business. That meant innovations like ATMs and in-cell phones for the cons. These were a first in Scotland. They also had a family and friends hub to make visits less of a nightmare, something other jails were quite slow to copy. And apparently the staff to prisoner vibe was decent and all. However, we consult a report here by the HMIPS saying that positive interactions made Killy safer than it was, with no serious staff down since 2004 and con-on-con violence dropping steep since 2003. But that was until one of the most notable incidents of violence occurred in February 2013, where a serious gym assault made the headlines. The assault of Imran Baldi Shahid. It's February 12, 2013 at HMP Kilmarnock, and the cons are buzzing, right, because Celtic's playing Juventus in the Champions League. Most of the hall's watching the telly, but in the gym, something mental's about to kick off. See, Imran Baldi Shahid was a 36-year-old caged for the murder of 15-year-old Chris Donald. He's on their own machine giving it loudy, right? Apparently he's been flinging his weight about, bullying people, doing things like apparently making people peel his oranges so he doesn't get his horns sticky, launching people's clays off the railings in the tap landing that they're drying them, stuff like that, just putting a pure dick. But tonight, the tables are about to turn. There was a squad of cons led by convicted murderer Willie Crawford. Had been planning this for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment when the screws were distracted. With only 2 screws watching their 20 cons in the gym, they chose their moment. And his moment he did pick. At 8:17 PM, Crawford picked up a 15 kilo weight and smashed it into the back of Baldy's skull, knocked him right off the rowing machine. CCTV was later splashed all across the Daily Record, showing the whole thing lasting just 23 seconds. But it was 23 seconds of pure madness. You've got Crawford, he flings the weight in Shahid's chest, he stamps on him, and then a few other cons get involved and join in and start battering him with metal bars and kicking his face and body. There was actually one guy called Bernard Bissett who was trying to back up Shahid, and he runs in, but he ends up getting a doing and all. There's blood pooling up in the flare, and Shahid is left with a fractured jaw, cheekbone, shattered teeth, and spinal injuries. The doctor said only his extreme muscular build saved him from dying, according to Kilmarnock Sheriff Court. The papers went mental. The Daily Record screamed race hate killer Imran Baldy Shahid left for dead in prison gym attack, and it showed the CCTV frame by frame. A source told the Record some cons had made it clear they didn't want Shahid there. He was a hate figure when they arrived. But why? That's because Shahid was the ringleader of a gang that kidnapped, stabbed and burned Chris Donald alive just because he was white. Scotland's first racially motivated murder conviction. People inside and out hated him for it. The attack wasn't just a scrap, it was a message. But what happened to the guys that actually done the damage? You see, the gym bashing wasn't just a one and done type thing. 8 cons aged 22 to 44 were reported to the PF for attempted murder, according to the Daily Record. The main guy, Crawford, got an extra 4 years on top of his 18-year life sentence. Brian Hislop got 3 years and 9 months added, and Darren Watson got 3 years after they pled guilty to the assault. The court heard it was meticulously planned and took advantage of the fact the Celtic game was on because it caught the screws off guard, and apparently the cons were high-fiving Crawford as he left the gym. Shahid, meanwhile, was carted to Crosshouse Hospital wearing a neck brace for 12 weeks and stuck in isolation ever since. Apparently at one point Baldy phoned the Daily Record and told them he was fucking ripped and promising revenge, but was apparently now a broken man, according to insiders. But the story didn't end there. How did this rammy ripple through Kilmarnock and beyond? You see, the Shahid assault put HMP Kilmarnock's rep as a safe private nick under the microscope. Serco, who ran the place, get pelters for the low staff to prisoner ratio. You had 2 screws for 20 cons in a gym. A spokeswoman told the Daily Record there was no plans to review the staff to prisoner ratio, claiming it met stringent safety and security requirements. But people weren't buying it. You see, the situation fed into a wider narrative of trouble at Kilmarnock, which included a riot over mail. It's Saturday the 10th of August 2019, and the protection ring came to about 60 cons, people at sex offenders or people who needed kept away from the main population for their own safety. It's meant to be a quiet bit of the jail, but the night, it's about to kick off. The trouble starts right when the screws decide to hold back the cons' mail. Why? Because they've got intel that criminal gangs are smuggling drugs into the jail by soaking letters in liquid gear, like synthetic cannabinoids or other substances known as spice. The cons expecting their mail are raging when it doesn't turn up. By 6 o'clock, what starts off as a peaceful protest turns into a full-scale riot. Around 40 to 60 cons, the numbers are a bit sketchy, refuse to go behind their door, and they end up taking control of the hall and then just setting up camp for the night. Things go from bad to just pure mental in no time. So the cons are now running the place. They start ripping it apart. You've got toilets and washing facilities ripped off the wall, and the cons are just flinging bits of ceramic, buckets of hot water, and even a pool table at security gates to keep the screws out. One con called Lee Neil McClellan is seen in CCTV pushing a pool table and a table tennis table against a gate, and then he flings a mattress to block the door. Another guy called Nicholas the Pellet is caught flinging broken ceramic and acting aggressive toward the staff. The screws, outnumbered and overwhelmed, retreat to the central hub, lock the gates and leave the hall in the hands of the rioters. Serco calls in the big guns, specialist tornado squads, trained for prison riots. Off-duty screws are dragged in to help. By 9:45, the hall's a war zone. You've got cons chanting, smashing and flinging whatever they can find. It takes until 20 past 10 at night for the riot crew to run in the hall and start locking people back in their cells. 2 cons get minor injuries and the wing is upside down. By Sunday the 11th of August, the riot is there and HMP Kilmarnock's on lockdown to keep a lid on things. A few ringleaders get papped out to other jails like Berlin or Low Moss to split everybody up. The jail's hoping to get back to normal by Sunday night, but The damage is already done. The protection ring is an absolute midden. You've got smashed up toilets, smashed furniture, and a cunty a repair bill. Serco's Michael Guy, the prison director, calls it an incident of concerted indiscipline and says it was successfully brought under control with no major injuries. But the papers are all at it, with the Scottish Sun, the Daily Record, writing headlines about riots and drug crackdowns. The situation feeds into the wider narrative of trouble at Kilmarnock, with people pointing fingers at Serco's private model, low staff ratios, cut corners, and a jail system that is just shaking under the pressure. In 2022, McClelland and Depolate cop it in Kilmarnock Sheriff Court, admitting to threatening behaviour and facing extra time. Sheriff McTaggart didn't mess about. He called Lee Neil McClelland's behaviour absolutely dreadful. He gets slapped with a 21-month custodial sentence, just for 2 years because he pled to it. He was banged to rights anyway. He was caught on CCTV pushing the pool table and TT table against a gate. He actually started shouting "fuck the system" in the dock and punching the air, which probably didn't do him any favours. And Nicholas de Perla, whose address was listed as Montrose, he got a different deal. He was seen CCTV acting aggressive and throwing broken bits of ceramic towards the end of the riot, trying to stop the screws getting in. Instead of a straight jail sentence, he gets sentenced deferred to a later date for a restriction of liberty order assessment and social work reports. And this was partly because he was accidentally shipped to Forfar Sheriff Court by mistaking the day, so the court couldn't sentence him right away. No final sentences confirmed in sources, so we're kinda left in limbo on where to go. The fact that it was deferred kinda suggests that it was probably community service at Otago. Another jail, another riot, different postcode, same story. There's one very unique tale to be told about Kilmarnock, and it occurred during the COVID lockdown. It's spring 2020, and HMP Kilmarnock's like a kebab shop on a Saturday night, packed and stinking. COVID's running amok, and Serco's arse is making buttons. 2 cons have already tested positive, and many more are locked in their cells, isolating. By 2021, nearly 300 folk, cons and staff catch the virus, and one guy even get carted off to the hospital. The screws are running about trying to enforce social distance in a jail where you can barely swing a canteen sheet. Testing is a shambles. Masks are few. The whole place is one sneeze away for an all-out meltdown. So whilst the jail's turned into 28 days later, 14 screws decide to head into the car park outside the jail. And what do? They start dancing. And how do we know this? Because they posted it on TikTok. This wasn't just a couple of here we goes and a few shoulder tackles. This was a full-on choreographed routine. Diversity would have been prouder. A source at the jail told the Daily Record it's a much needed lift for people stuck working in such grim conditions. And STV News says it's all about showing love for frontline workers. Meanwhile, the custard in the hot plate has got a skin like a Siamese cat. Whilst these fannies are doing the Gangnam style out the front. Come March 17, 2024, HMP Kilmarnock officially waves bye-bye to Serco and becomes a public prison again. SPS boss Theresa Medhurst calls it a unique and momentous responsibility. She's no kidding. They've got to transfer 300 odd staff, update every system for payroll to security cameras, and make sure the 500 cons don't kick off in the meantime. The jail's in decent nick. There's no leaky roofs or busted pipes or skint custard. But Serco's left some gaps, like no proper through care support officers to help cons get back on their feet after release. The SPS keeps the good bits, like the family and friends hubs for visitors, and no fancy body-worn cameras for screws. But they're under pressure to prove public control can outshine the private shambles. The POA's chuffed, been campaigning for this since day one, and the papers are buzzing with headlines about the end of private jails in Scotland. It's a big win, but the real test is keeping the jail running smooth. As 2024 rolls in, HMP Kilmarnock settled into its new life as an SPS prison. The handover is hailed as a success, with the SPS going on about the jail's strong community links and well-managed vibe. But we never forget the days of panorama, riots, and car park choreographic dancing. Seriously, you can shower our fannies. HMP Kilmarnock's had its fair share of dramas, troops, right? But it's not the only private jail in Scotland that's been keeping the tabloids busy. In fact, almost placed second best to our next contestant, a headline stealer out in West Lothian. This nick, ran by Sodexo since it opened in 2008, is meant to be a shiny learning prison for turning cons into model citizens. But it's been more like a masterclass in mayhem. The sky-high self-harm rates, 11,139 in 5 years, the highest in Scotland, to a series of deaths in custody, including 10 between 2018 to 2023. The papers went mental with staff shortages, with reports of screws being too scared to patrol the halls alone, with cons smashed up a unit with dodgy conditions. And here's the money shot. Sodexo paid out £3 million to shareholders in 2022, whilst the safety fears piled up, leaving MSPs and unions raging. Kilmarnock's 2005 panorama set-up 2019 riot and TikTok dancing had your interest, then this place will certainly have your attention. Up next is the West Lothian madhouse that is HMP Adewell. If you want to view this episode in its entirety, then head on over to the Patreon and sign up to the Patter Pro tier. For a small one-off payment, you can watch the full history of the Scottish Prison System podcast.